Now, Genesis chapter 2, verse 16 to 17. Please pay attention. Genesis 2, 16 to 17.
And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, Of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die.
For in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. The term every in the garden, every, is the word koi, K-O-I. Is, it's similar to the word pass graphe. All right? Every, used 418 times. That word every is used 5,418 times. When koi is used, it's not any and every. It's specific. If you notice, that in the narration, there were only 2 trees mentioned. So it's not that there was mango tree, orange tree, guava tree, banana. No. Only 2 trees. Obviously, it was just 2. Because Genesis chapter 3, verse 22, read for me. Genesis chapter 3, verse number 22 says to us,
And the Lord God said, Behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever.
There is no fruit you will eat that you will live forever. There is no fruit in the physical you will eat that you will live forever. No fruit. So he wasn't talking of a physical fruit like guava. Moreover, there were only 2 trees. Genesis 3:24. Stay with me. Genesis 3:24. Read for me.
So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims, and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life.
The tree of life. So there were obviously 2 trees, not several trees. However, what was being referred to here was not food for the digestive system. What they were discussing here was not food for the digestive system. I don't know any food you will eat and live forever. Obviously, what he's talking about is spiritual in nature. What he's talking about here is pictorial. A pictorial description of the book of Genesis. A pictorial description. Look at the word freely again. The word freely is the word akal. Akal. Freely thou mayest freely eat. The interesting thing about this word is that it is used twice. It's like saying you may eat to eat. You may eat to eat. That is, I am repeating eating twice. It's like saying thou mayest akal akal. But the translators, the reason why they put freely is to show emphasis. But it's akal, akal, thou may eat. Look at verse 17 of that Genesis, where we are reading right now. Genesis chapter 2, verse 17. Genesis 2:17.
But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die.
Thou shalt not eat of it. See the emphasis again. Thou shalt eat thereof. Thou shalt surely die. Surely there is emphasis. It means dying, die. Dying, die. Eating, eat. Dying, die is the word muth in the Hebrew. M-U-T-H. Used for die. Used 839 times. It means dying, die. Somebody like E.W. Kenyon will say, in dying you will die. That's the way E.W. Kenyon will put it. Now, they surely die in eating, eat. In repeating it twice, that means what is being said cannot be readily seen with the eyes. So it needs to be explained. Dying, die cannot be seen. Eating, eat cannot be seen. So it will require explanation of those terms. So language is the issue there. In dying, die. In eating, eat. The emphasis again is in Genesis chapter 3 verse number 8. Read for me, Genesis chapter 3 verse number 8.
And they heard the voice of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God amongst the trees of the garden.
He repeated it again. Now look at that, Genesis chapter 3 verse 3 and 4. Genesis 3 and 4 for me.
But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die.
Verse 4.
And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die.
Again, the emphasis is there. Die. You shall not surely die. Again, look at the word died. The word muth, M-U-T-H. Did you observe that the verb here, which is muth, is not being killed? It's not being killed. It's dying, die. Genesis chapter 5 verse 5 and 8. Genesis chapter 5 verse 5 and 8.
And all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died.
Verse 8.
And all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died.
So he didn't say, I will surely kill you. You saw, and he died. And he died. You shall surely die. He didn't say, I will kill you. So obviously that word muth there is just like the eating is in a man's will. The eating is in a man's will. So we can say again, death is man's creation. Death is man's creation. It's not a creation of God. What he's referring to here is man's creation. It was never God's doing. Both the eating and the dying are man's doing. Both the eating and the dying are man's doing. If he had said, the day you eat of it, I will surely kill you, that would be a different ball game. But he said, you shall surely die. Dying you die. You shall not eat. They are both within man's volition. You shall not eat, man's volition. You shall surely die. It's within man's volition. If the eating didn't come from God, then the dying didn't come from God. If the eating didn't come from God, then the dying didn't come from God. They both are from the same actionable words. You shall surely die. You shall not eat of it. You shall. The day you eat, you shall surely die. James gives us the motions because what James is talking about here, he's not referring to when you commit a sin you will die. James is saying exactly what Paul said in Romans 5:12. Wherefore, as by one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin, so death passed upon all men, for that all have sinned. Give me James chapter 1 verse 13 and 14. PJ, James 1, 13 and 14.
Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man.
Pay attention, next verse.
But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed.
Let no man say, when I'm tempted of God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man. Wherefore, as by one man sin entered into the world, but every man is tempted when he's drawn away of his own. Let no man say is God. You eat, you shall surely die. You eat, and you, within the volition of man. I'm teaching good here. Pay attention. There's lust, first of all, desire. Then there is sin. Then sin, when it is finished, brings forth death. You know, he started from lust, desire, then he went to sin, then he went to death. All these are the motions in the Garden of Eden. It was desire, then lust, then sin, then death. Desire is from man's will and volition. Desire is a function of man's will and volition. Then he says it brings forth death, and he used it the way a woman conceives to have a child. A woman conceives deliberately. There is no accidental pregnancy. Every pregnancy in a woman is deliberate. Even the accidental one was deliberate. The accident is that the two of them were stupid to think that when they trigger the law will refuse to go in motion. So they triggered the law, expecting the law of reproduction not to work. And the law told them, I am a law. Anywhere in the world I am triggered, whether by men and animals, I must go to work. So pregnancy resulted. So it's deliberate, a woman gets pregnant. So that's why James borrowed that word from women. When lust had conceived, just like a woman conceives deliberately, sin is a deliberate act of man. Deliberate act of man. I love Brother James's selection of words. He says all of that is not in God's creation. Both the lust, the conception, the sin, and the death is not in God's creation. It is man, not Satan. Not Satan, not God, man. Wherefore, as by one man, every man is tempted when he's drawn of Satan's lust. No, when he's drawn of his own.